Welcome to the Integris employee series of our podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Clayton Hall. He's a systems engineer on our managed services team out of Atlanta, Georgia. Clayton, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks very much.
Awesome. So, Clayton, before we get into tech and engineering and all of that, are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
Coffee. I like tea, but yeah, it doesn't have enough caffeine. I need it in the morning.
Do you have a favorite brand or a favorite method that you like to utilize?
No, I can't handle the bitterness, so I need creamer. It's gotta be coffee.
Sounds good. All right. With that being said, walk us through what led you to choosing a career path as a systems engineer.
Well, surprisingly enough, it wasn't until my last year of community college for my associates that I finally picked a major. I'd had a laptop and a couple of low grade computers before then. I was just as in the dark as most of our clients, are as a basic. I have a computer and I use it for work, but I kept running into issues, and I got sick of having to call in consumer level support and deal with their technicians who always showed up late with the wrong parts, didn't know what they were doing. So I started watching them and figuring out where they were messing up and what they were doing wrong. It's like, why? In short, I kind of got fed up with consumer grade support, and it's, you know what? I'm going to learn this myself, and I bet I could do a better. So I started looking it up, and then when they asked me to pick a major, I just kept looking at all the stuff, and it's like, that's too much math. That's too much math. That's too much physical work. Computers. That sounds fun. And I just had a knack for it. So I dove a little harder into
Curiosity.
it. Yeah. It's the ultimate, if you want it done right attitude. I just learned it myself.
That's awesome. And what was your first glimpse into professional life in terms of being a systems engineer?
It was actually more of just a regular IT guy in the back room thing. I worked for a rail switching company fresh out of high school before I got my first gig at an MSP. And I probably learned more in those 2 years than all of college, just because, with some places, just an intern IT guy, they run off of a bunch of old 5, 10 year machines. And it's not so much about the technology as much as it is the bare minimum to make business run. So I ended up dealing with a lot of on the fringe of going out of support, and I worked with a lot of no longer in support, and it was always critical that it work. So yeah, my first taste was everything's on fire and nothing works, and I need you to find a way to fix it, but we don't want to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some would say there's no better place to learn than that.
Oh yeah, it prepared me. That's for sure.
Did you have a mentor throughout, whether it be college or even some of those initial, positions that you held that really helped push your level of knowledge or support you in the journey?
Surprisingly enough, throughout the little bit of college and my very first gig, I didn't. I was very much flying blind, and I was constantly a mess of, am I learning the right thing? Am I learning stuff that's going to be useful in the major job market, or am I just helping keep these guys afloat? It wasn't until I hit my first MSP that I started getting managers who took my growth and advancement as a personal interest. And they started seeing where they felt I could improve, not in a you're doing it wrong sense, but more of the potential is there. You're just missing this factor. And I've had a couple of those throughout, some of whom have not followed me, but coincidentally are now part of the Integris platform as well.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that. What has your experience been working with the team at what was Legacy Providyn, now the Integris Atlanta office?
Probably the best work experience I've had. And I'm not saying that for the podcast. I've
Mm.
honestly been looking for ways to express this. I won't go into obvious problematic areas such as title and name and things like that, but I have worked for unnamed MSPs before, particularly ones that had an M&A, had an acquisition merger, thing like that. It was poorly planned out. It was poorly executed. The entire show was run by people who are definitely good in their field of expertise. Unfortunately, that field of expertise was not technology. And I met a lot of really great engineers there. And I had a lot of reason to want to better myself and my skills there. And unfortunately, that did not work out. Moving to Providyn by pure chance turned out to be the best move that I could have made. It was everything positive that I had learned about MSPs as a perfect place to start, a perfect place to grow, a perfect place to spread out your knowledge in different areas. Because, I mean, you get a job making whatever you want to make at an individual company that needs an IT person, you are going to learn that system and nothing but that system. And here we touch systems as old as 2003 and as new as tomorrow, stuff that's not even out yet. And it's incredible. And I'm very fortunate that by the time that I got to Providyn, the managers and the leadership were already in place, and their mindset and their attitude towards how an MSP should be run gelled so perfectly with mine. And I found through pure happenstance, more people that I was familiar with from previous teams ended up here as well. And we all have the same feeling. And we've got kind of the cream of the crop of engineers, I feel, in Atlanta. From the few teams I've had and met and seen, I think we have a pretty astounding one down here in Atlanta. And I couldn't be prouder of how far we've gotten. And I'm hoping that the big expansion can only improve that.
Yeah, what would you attribute that to, Clayton?
I think that I would attribute that to the mindset that leadership has. And to clarify, I think that I attribute that to the fact that my manager, Tyler, and our support director, Gene, and our leaders, Hamish and Matt, they have practicality in their head. They know that numbers are fine and good and important, but you can't just ask for the numbers over and over. They take the time to look at us as individuals, see where our strengths and weaknesses lie, and push us in the direction of our strengths. If we make a mistake, they don't wait until the 6-month interview to nail us for it. They go, hey, we saw this just now. How can we fix it? They don't make us feel bad if we mess up, because it's expected that with any new technology, you can't get it right the first time. They acknowledge that we are the driving force of this company, and we face the clients on a daily basis through all of their issues, more so than sales or strategic solutions or leadership in general. And they listen to us. They listen to the reports from the field, the boots on the ground, and they actually change or tweak or completely get rid of policies that are harmful to the workforce, because they know that as long as we can do our jobs functionally and we know where we stand, we're happy to do whatever we need to do. And that mindset of, if the worker is happy and has everything they need to do their job, then doing their job isn't a chore. It's something they're happy to do. It's almost like funding a hobby that just benefits everyone, if that makes any kind of sense.
That makes perfect sense. And then at the end of the day, the individuals like yourself then better serve the customers because you have what you need to do your job.
Yeah. I can tell you, in my last couple of positions, all I could think about was, how do I get through the day? How do I make sure this is closed? How do I get home? Day one since I got here has been, this is a problem. How do we fix it? Why has this been a problem for so long? It's a puzzle. It's a puzzle that is asking to be solved. Every ticket almost is, how can I solve this puzzle? Because it brings me a sense of accomplishment to fix clients' problems. It brings me a sense of pride when a client is happy with the speed and accuracy with which me or our entire team solves their problems. The fact that someone calls us and they don't feel frustrated enough to launch an entire career into IT like I had to makes me feel better. I started doing this because I wanted to do it in a way that wouldn't make other people agitate, because we all know the horror stories for Comcast and AT and you name it. If you have dreading calling support because you know it's going to take hours and they're going to run you through the patronizing stuff that you've already done 300 times. And we want to avoid that. We don't want to be those companies, because that's not how you solve problems. That's how you just run formulas. And we don't want to run formulas or metrics mindlessly. We want the problems to be solved so that people want to hire us.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just it's a form of practicality that I don't see too often. and I have great appreciation for it.
That's outstanding. So, with that being said, what does a typical day in the life of a systems engineer look like? What problems are you and your team solving for our customer? What do they look like?
I can tell you that most of our day-to-day stuff is actually pretty tame. It's the stuff you'd expect. This isn't, this software's not working right. My password needs to be reset. The small things take up the bulk. What I tend to deal with day to day are the things that get past that. And those are things that usually have to do with what we call technical debt. And technical debt is when you have a company that has a system or a piece or even just a very important user working or running on a system that cannot handle it or cannot handle it much longer. And we need to find ways to not only measure what the best way to move forward is, whether that be replacing or upgrading the equipment or shifting the software maybe to the cloud, or, there's a million different ways to do that, but also how to keep things surviving and online until we can make that change. We've had experiences where we deal with things that are so far past end of life that they just can't be renewed. The system doesn't exist anymore. A whole company will run on this system. So what do? We have to find a completely different method to solve the problem that system solves. And sometimes that goes as far as fixing internal processes as well. When we have, if a process takes 10 to 20 hours for, this major migration to happen, and we can shave that down to 7, that's amazing. That's pretty much what I've been doing lately is looking through our RMM and looking through a lot of our internal stuff and seeing where we can make these improvements, simply because we don't usually have a lot of time. We have a lot of calls, we have a lot of projects, and when you run that hard for so long, things get missed, things that need to get updated or trimmed out. And it's been surprisingly easy because we keep up with it very well. But those changes are what I've been focusing on, fixing our RMM and taking a look at some internal processes.
It seems like the theme I'm picking up from you is the puzzle solving aspect.
I do like a puzzle. I do like a puzzle. Yeah.
Cool. The final question, Clayton, before we part ways here. What are you most excited about with the move to Integris and the current path we are all on?
Well, I'm definitely happy for the wealth of knowledge coming in, for one. We have how many now? Like, we had 5 teams, and then we added another one that was made up of 5 other teams. So we've got a whole bunch of engineers coming on, and a whole bunch of knowledge, and a whole bunch of history coming on, so that the gaps in knowledge that we have can be filled. And what I'm more excited about is being able to fill the gaps that I can in other teams if I can. That's what I'm hoping, is that I can bring any amount of skill that others perceive I have into use for a larger group of people. I like being helpful. I like being useful. And if I'm any good at it, I want to be able to apply it to as many people as possible. So if that means they got to send me to Denver for a few months, I'm okay with that. I think we were joking earlier. It's like, I need to find someone in the partnership that opens up in Hawaii or something like that. But ultimately, it's the resource expansion. I like having more engineers who I can draw knowledge on. I like being able to share what I've learned with others. And it just makes a bigger, stronger force that allows us to basically do what we want. Because what we want is to solve these problems and help the clients. It's really the only reason to stay an engineer for so long, to make it a life career, is if you like solving these problems and learning. And I think that I have a lot of learning I still need to do. And in any other MSP, you'll hit a wall. You'll hit a wall. I've learned everything I can from these guys, but I don't really want to leave because I like it here. I really like it here. I can't stress that enough. I never thought I would have a job that was this rewarding. And the fact that we're about to, what's the double, triple, quadruple? What is that in the 10s and 15s? We're about to exponentially expand our pools of knowledge and resource and ability. And it's becoming a company / platform you really can devote a lifetime career to. I can see working here 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And that's incredibly exciting for me.
That mindset of everything that you just mentioned, I think, is the ultimate mindset that if everybody has, will lead us to do great things in every position in this company. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is Clayton Hall, systems engineer on our managed services team out of our Atlanta, Georgia office. Clayton, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, thank you for reaching out. I was excited to hear from you.
Awesome, man. Clayton, thank you so much, man. See ya.
You're very welcome. Bye.